Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, I did a poll last night, and I didn't mean to make it 24 hours. I only meant to make it like 6 hours at best. But it still yielded the same result after I got a good night's sleep. And the result was Zorro or The Mask of Zorro and Legend of Zorro that I should review. So, that being said, I'm going to be reviewing both of them live for you all. And if you catch it on the replay, that's okay. Because this channel or this video will be uploaded for replay. So let's get into it. This, or Mask of Zorro first, it is objectively a very good film. It's a swashbuckling film, basically. It has swordplay, very good choreography, cinematography, all that stuff. Acting, casting, writing, directing, it was all good. Mask of Zorro is truly a great movie. Now, even as a standalone movie, it is a great movie. But because of its success and whatnot, they wanted to make another one. And we'll get into that a little later. So, also, folks, be sure to smash that like button or smack it with a ladder like a ladder smacked my face earlier this week. There we go. Just getting my banner up. So, yeah. The story basically starts with Zorro's last ride. And it's Anthony Hopkins' Zorro's last ride. Because Anthony Hopkins plays the older Zorro, or Zorro Prime, as I like to call him, Diego de la Vega. Or in the older Zorro show, he's just Diego Vega. Now, this movie does have a slight of a whitewash, but you know what? It doesn't matter. There was no identity politics. It was still very faithful to what Zorro was, a hero. And just because Anthony Hopkins played Don Diego de la Vega does not mean that, oh, it was a whitewash and this and that. People didn't focus on that crap. And that's what I love. How you doing, Lyndon? Good to see you. Catherine Zeta-Jones can get it. Thing is, she was very good in this movie. And she did the sword instruction and all that stuff. All the choreography in this movie of the sword fights and whatnot, it was well done. The cast all did their best to get the fight choreography down, and they did one hell of a job doing it. The stunt work was very well done. You couldn't even tell it was a stunt double. Well, mostly because of the mask and the hat when it came to Zorro. But Antonio Banderas, back in the 90s, he was a freaking heartthrob that did all sorts of freaking movies. And he actually did a very good job as the younger Zorro, Alejandro de la Vega. He actually took de la Vega's last name in honor of who he was and whatnot. Now, we are discussing spoilers, which is pretty evident at this point. So basically, they put this in historical significance. Santa Anna is a very prominent figure in Mexico at the time. And he was basically threatening the hierarchy of Spain that if they didn't pull out the Spaniards, well, they're going to slaughter every Spaniard they find. Because Spain's time of ownership of Mexico, I believe, was over. So Santa Anna wanted Rafael Montero gone. But Rafael Montero wanted to make one last reckoning. He wanted to capture Zorro and kill him. But so he lures him in with 3 innocent people, and Zorro took the bait and turned it right back on Montero. Now, Rafael Montero's character was brilliantly played. I can't remember the actor's name, but he played a very observant villain. He saw that Zorro got nicked on the arm while he was fighting through all the guards. And he also and after he escaped, well, Montero had an idea of who he was to begin with. That's why he shows up at De La Vega's hacienda as he's putting his child to sleep, and his wife and him were about to share a passionate moment. Well, Rafael Montero shows up to arrest De La Vega. And in the process, a fight ensues, and Esperanza gets killed by one of Rafael Montero's men. And Rafael Montero, in good fashion, because he was also in love with Esperanza, he kills the guy who accidentally shot her. So, yeah. When De La Vega goes for his daughter Elena, who's crying because of all the commotion, he knocks him out and says, "I want you to live." Montero knocks De La Vega out. He's like, "I want you to live knowing that you have lost everything you hold dear, and you will live knowing that your child should have been mine." Basically, it was the insane infatuation and jealousy of Rafael Montero that he wanted Esperanza to himself. So as the hacienda burns, De La Vega comes to. "How you doing, AFK Bard? Good to see you. I'm doing a review for Legend and Mask, or Mask and Legend of Zorro, in that order." Now, objectively speaking, I will actually get into the scores. Objectively speaking, this movie is a 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, this movie is well done. It didn't have any flashy special effects. It didn't have any digital effects for any bit of it, I don't think. I mean, I just watched the movies today, and I did not see any real digital effects. And if there were any, they were so well done that it didn't register as fake. So, objectively speaking, yes, 4.5 out of 5. Subjectively, it's 5 out of 5. I've loved Zorro ever since I was a kid. I've always watched the Disney shows and even the older Zorro movies, especially the parody one, Zorro and the Gay Blade. That was freaking hilarious. And moviegoer, if you guys like swashbuckling action films, especially from the 90s, you will like Zorro or The Mask of Zorro. It is a well put together film, great actors, great actress, and great story. So 20 years then passes after De La Vega has been imprisoned and Rafael Montero leaves Mexico, or California in this case, because at this time in history, California belonged to Mexico and whatnot. So 20 years later, Montero comes back. His exile is over. He decides to come back and reclaim and then have a larger reckoning of his vision for California. So the first thing he does when he comes back is goes right to the jail or the prison where Zorro was taken. And he goes looking for Zorro, because he knows that if he comes back and Zorro is alive, well, he's going to try to escape and kill him. And Zorro cleverly conceals himself as Raphael is looking at everybody, and a fight ensues. A bunch of people, or a bunch of the sickened inmates, try finding him, or get into fights, claiming that they're Zorro, because they know that whoever claims that they are Zorro, they will be killed. And their suffering is, you could tell just by how they look that they're diseased and suffering. So during the whole thing, Raphael believes that Zorro is finally dead. And he then goes and meets up with Capitan, or Captain Love, I believe they called him. Yeah, Love, of all the names. And they go to the landing where Rafael Montero is going to make his big entrance. Now, before that, there are two boys, Alejandro and Joaquin Murrieta, the Murrieta brothers, who were in the square when Zorro did his last ride 20 years ago. So they also helped Zorro and saved his life, because Montero called out for guards to shoot Zorro, and they dropped the statue on the guards. Now, Zorro gives his silver necklace to one of them, which was he gives it to Joaquin, but Alejandro has it later on, because Captain Love also kills Alejandro, doesn't kill Alejandro, he kills Joaquin Murrieta. Well, Murrieta kills himself, and then the captain cuts off his head. Bury the body, bag the head was the line that was given. Now, this comes to play later on, because Antonio Banderas' character, Alejandro, is in a small city. I believe it's one, I can't remember what city it was. They don't really say. But he's getting drunk because his brother's dead. And he asks for another, but the bartender says, money first. And he's like, what about this? Pulls out the necklace. And that's when Zorro shows up, and he's like, and he gives the bartender a scare, basically a look to say, beat it. Now, this is a beautiful moment, because it shows that this character, Zorro, even at his older, still knows his stuff. And he demands of the drunkard, where did you get this necklace? And he's like, it was my brother's, he's dead. Well, I'm sorry. You're sorry? Why should you be sorry? I don't think you should trade that or much silver for a mere glass of whiskey. So then Banderas sees the man who kills his brother, and he's ready to go after him, and Zorro stops him. He's like, that's the man who killed my brother. He's like, you're drunk and you're angry. You're not in any condition to fight a superior opponent. Well, then Banderas is drunk. He doesn't want to hear that. So Anthony Hopkins pushes him into another area. They have a little tussle with swords. Well, Banderas has a sword, and Hopkins has a stick or a cane. And after he beats him, he's like, I would have killed him. And he's like, no, you would have died. You see, or he's trained to fight. You seem trained to drink. Now, if you want to kill this man, I can help you. I can teach you how to move, how to strike, how to take your revenge with honor and live to celebrate it. So then this is where he reveals himself to this boy, because he recognizes the boy from years ago. He's like, and he asks him, why are you so eager to help me? Because once a long time ago, you did the same for me. And that is a very beautifully set moment, because Anthony Hopkins knows how to deliver lines with not only wisdom, but humility. Basically, he recognized that this boy was one of the boys who saved him from a very dire situation, because he would have been killed if he hadn't been saved by the boys. And he recognized that this boy has what is needed to take his revenge. He also realizes that, well, the boy can also help him get his daughter back. Because Catherine Zeta-Jones, it plays the adult version of Zorro's daughter. So he teaches him. The whole training montage is so freaking hilarious to watch, where he pulls out the sword, he gives it a flourish, and then he gets in a ready position, and Anthony Hopkins just smacks the sword right out of his hand, and he's like, slow, go slow. So they do the whole training montage, gets him cleaned up, and it's just such a freaking fun thing to watch. So then he starts training him, cuts his hair, and he teaches him the drills of sword fighting. It's very great to see. And so then after he finally has enough training, he goes out to find a horse, and they find the Black Andalusian, which was just like Zorro's steed, Tornado. So he goes out to steal the horse, and he puts on a mask that was around the horse's leg. He takes that, puts on the mask, cuts 2 holes in it, and then he goes to steal the horse. And everything just goes wrong. He also comes into contact with Catherine Zeta-Jones's Elena, and it's a nice little passion moment. Nothing sexual or anything, just they meet eyes, they have a little bit of talking, and he then rushes off. He hasn't donned the mask of Zorro or the drapery of Zorro, basically. The clothing. So he gets in the horse, or gets in, frees the horse, gets ready, and then he clicks the spurs into the horse. Horse takes off, smacks him down, and then he has to fight his way through all of the frickin' cops. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the law enforcement of the era, which was basically a military. Now, he fights all of them, and then a bigger guy comes in, and he starts getting thrown around, and then he takes 2 cannonballs, smacks the dude's face enough times to where he just spits out his teeth. And a lot of fighting ensues. The fighting in this movie is still well choreographed, and it's funny. It's entertaining. So then he gets to fake being a priest because he's hiding from the police. And he's in the same confessional as Catherine Zeta-Jones. And those are some of the funniest moments in the movie. She goes into confession. She's like, it's been 3 days since my last confession. 3 days? How many sins can you have committed in 3 days? Come back when you have more time, please. And she's like, what? And so he then sees who it is, and so he's like, please, go on. I've broken the 4th commandment, Father. You killed somebody? No, that is not the 4th commandment. Of course not. So in what way do you break the most sacred of commandments? And it is just so funny. I dishonored my father. That is not so bad. Maybe your father deserved it. It is such great it is just such great moments. And then it's interrupted by Captain Love because he finds his way into the church, having his goons search the whole place, which is actually not allowed to happen. But he's always been an extremist. And he realizes that, or he finds Elena there, and he's actually also infatuated with Elena. And Rafael Montero wants his daughter to kind of be with Captain Love. But it's not really works out. But anyway, She's like, or he's like, what are you doing here? I was confessing. Confessing to whom? The priest is here. And then he realizes, oh, somebody might be in the confessional. So he puts a hole through the confessional, and, well, there's nobody in there. But he sees the cut out the top. And he says, out of respect for Miss Montero, I will deal with you later. Now, you find out what Captain Love does with those who he incarcerates. After Alejandro returns back to the cave where Zorro is training him, Zorro is putting out flames with his whip. So he comes back, he's like, what do you think? And Zorro just ignores him, goes back to whipping, and he's like, or he goes to tell him what he did, and he just cracks his whip even louder. People will start speaking the name of Zorro again and whatnot. You think because you scratched some marks on the wall and stole a horse, that you're worthy enough to wear that mask? Whips the mask right off his head, or splits it right here. He's like, be careful. You're a thief, Alejandro, a pitiful clown. Zorro was a man of the people. He did what was needed, and he didn't expect fame. And so, at this point, he gets lectured again with that lecture, and this is when Alejandro is not, or does not want anything else. He's like, I'm tired of all the lecturing. I thought I could get what I needed here. I was wrong. So then, another beautiful Anthony Hopkins moment. He challenges Alejandro. He's like, on guard, choose your weapon. So he grabs his sword and he whips it up. And then this is what Anthony Hopkins does. Brings up a spoon, of all things. He's like, wait, what? And he tells him that Montero is hosting a gala at his hacienda, and if you want to be of service, you can join him as a spy. And the way that he delivers all of his lines, Anthony Hopkins is one of my favorite actors for a reason. He's like, you do have skill in your, or you do have talent and your skill is growing, but in order to infiltrate Montero's circle, I need to give you something that is completely out of your reach. Oh, yes? And what is that? Charm. And what is that? It's like, oh my gosh, man. So he teaches him all the things of being a bureaucrat. And they get to the hacienda. And he's like, how do you know Montero won't figure out who you are? And he tells him, Montero thinks of himself as a true nobleman. He'll never look a servant in the eye. And well, and that is very true, because he gets right up next to Montero and he doesn't even know who he is. Now, he does a little bit of a magic trick to charm Elena, because that's where they meet up again. And they realize that Raphael is about to go into a clandestine area. Well, he needs to halt him from doing so. So Alejandro asks Elena to do a very exotic dance, a very adult dance. And when this is seen by Montero and by Captain Love, well, they stop immediately what they're doing, and they go down to basically stop after the dance is already concluded. And Alejandro's like, your daughter's a very spirited dancer. Spirited. Thank you for putting it so delicately. And well, he basically made it as if Elena was, or had put him up to it, when he actually put her up to it. So she leaves in a huff, and so he then gets invited over to, or invited into his clandestine meeting, where they say, we will take you to a place and we will show you the future of the independent Republic of California. That is the plan, to basically make California independent from Mexico. Now, they then take him to where all of the people that Captain Love incarcerates, they're all slaves at this point. They're all mining gold at, or to pay Santa Anna. And they're putting the Spanish seal, the Spanish royal seal, so that Santa Anna will think that all of the gold came from Spain. Well, this kind of duplicity would be an immediate and very brutal death if Santa Anna ever caught wind of it. The whole plan was to basically pay Santa Anna gold that was dug from his own land in order to buy California from Mexico. Now, there's also the character of Three-Fingered Jack that I forgot to mention. He was also played by a very good actor. I can't remember his name, but he was very funny and he played the role well. And he was one of the first people, or he was with the Murrieta brothers. Basically, they were, all three of them were working a hustle to get the reward, then escape, get the reward, then escape, get the reward, then escape. Well, they got caught by Captain Love. And Captain Love captured Three-Fingered Jack, had him working for the mines. And that's when Three-Fingered Jack tries to kill Captain Love and ends up getting shot out of the air again because he jumped out of, or off the wagon and got shot by Captain Love the first time. So Alejandro, knowing who this person is, goes to see him one last time before he dies after he was shot. And there's that small moment of recognition before he dies. Gotta say, that's pretty crafty. Yes, it actually is. Zorro, well, he's not a party pooper, I wouldn't say, but he does know how to get the party more lively with all of his antics. Now, this is when Captain Love calls Alejandro to the hacienda. He has a suspicion. Maybe this guy is not maybe this guy is Murrieta's brother. So he takes a drink, and then he's like, how silly of me, or how rude of me, may I offer you a drink? He picks up a jar, or this big thing of water, which has Joaquin, his brother's head, in there. And I'm like, yeah, that's disturbing. That's just really freaking disturbing. You're drinking water from a jar that has a head in it. And he's like, no, a different vintage perhaps. Three-Fingered Jack's hand is in another jar. And I'm like, dude, this is seriously twisted. When I first saw the movie, I'm like, this is seriously twisted. And right then you hear Antonio Banderas, you're a very sick man, Captain Love. He's like, heads in watered buckets, hands in glass jars or wine jars might strike you a little odd, isn't it? Now, he's like, who is he? An enemy. So he then says, well, to your health. And that's when Captain Love displays opens his suspicions. He's like, Murrieta's brother or not, you are more than you claim to be. Well, perhaps in time you'll figure that out, Captain Love. So then he goes back to their hideout. And they realize that, or there's no way that they know where the mine is, because when they were brought to the mine, all of the carriages were covered so that nobody would know where the mine is except for Montero and Captain Love. Now there's also a map. Well then, after a brief little pity moment where Anthony Hopkins is trying to teach Alejandro a lesson, he's like, you need to find your way back into the hacienda, you need to steal or find out whatever you can, and he can't hear any of that. He's like, he had my brother's head in a freaking jar. So he's kind of traumatized at this moment. And he's like, I miss my brother, sir. He's like, your brother is dead. He was killed a while ago. We can't, or put it aside. And we cannot change that. We lose the ones we love. We cannot change it. And put it aside. And he's like, how? When all I feel is hate. Well, then hide it with this. And he lifts up the mask and unfurls it. So he's basically letting Alejandro know, you are now ready to don this mask and to become a symbol of the people. And so this is where one of the best moments of the movie comes in. Montero and Love are about to celebrate the independence of California. And just as they're ready to take their shots, the alarm goes off. And one of the guards is screaming about something out in the plains. Well, they go out and look, and it's a big ass flaming Z. And it's like, oh shit. So you then see Anthony Hopkins out there smiling as he lit that Z. And you also see Montero and Captain Love freaking scrambling. They're worried. He's like, why are you so worried? It's only one man. He's like, it's not just one man, damn it. It's Zorro. And he knows about the mine. That's why otherwise he wouldn't be here tonight. And they basically express their worries. He's like, well, you don't seem to grasp the situation the situation, Captain. If Santa Anna realizes that we paid him in gold dug from his own country, he'll have us butchered like cattle. Well, then we destroy the evidence, set explosives, bury the mine. And the workers, we destroy all. Or Montero, who's not a monster. I mean, he's an aristocrat. Yes, he is also a killer, but he's not a monster. And so I like the escalation with the Z. Oh, yeah. The Z is actually that was a stroke of genius, in my opinion, in the movie. And so while they're talking, you see a sword come down and swipe the map. And as he asks, or Montero then asks Captain Love, what about the workers? We bury all of the evidence, no witnesses. So this basically lets you know that he's not just a person that will cut off people's heads and put them in jars and whatnot. He's willing to kill everyone if he needs to. That's how extreme Captain Love is. And Montero's not happy with it, but he accepts that it's necessary. Also, a small backtrack for a moment. The priest that helped Zorro at the church during the confession scene with Elena, he's also at the mine. He was enslaved to work in the mine. So you understand that Captain Love is a very demented person. So Captain Love then grabs all the records and the map, closes it up, and as he's looking through, he realizes that the map is missing, and he calls for the guards. Turns around, Zorro has his sword right to his neck. It's like the much debated Zorro. No, the legendary Zorro. And it's Anthony Hopkins, just bravado at this point, because at this point, he's basking. Now, he's skilled, but he does a little bit of basking here and there in his own little glory. He's like, allow me. Pulls his gun, throws it aside, and tells the guards to put down their weapons because the two guards show up. And he's like, tell them, do as he says. And he takes the captain's sword, tells the guards to step forward, turn towards the window. Now lean down or bend over and touch your toes. And they look at the captain. He's like, bend over. And this is just the fun. He's like, thank you. Kicks the guards right out the window. Then tosses the captain his sword. They engage. And then Montero comes in and he starts fighting him. Now, Montero is a very observant person. He notices this is a younger Zorro. So this Zorro gets the better of them, escapes with the map, which sells the plans after. But as he's escaping, he comes across Elena. And Elena's like, give it back. Whatever it is you stole from my father, give it back. And so they actually have a little sword fight. And this duel was well done. I've seen special features of the movies, and the choreography, she spent months doing sword choreography, learning how to handle a sword and whatnot. And it really shows in this movie. Catherine Zeta-Jones, her character Elena Montero in this movie, but Elena de la Vega in the next movie because, well, she takes her father's name again. It really shows that she knows how to handle a sword. And she is an actual, real strong female character back when strong female characters were a thing. So, anyway, they have their little bit of a sword play. Then they get a little bit more serious. But Zorro disarms her, and he's like, don't move. Series of small cuts here and there, and he just undoes her dress completely to where she's topless, but her hair covers her breasts and whatnot. So she grabs the hat to cover, and he's like, do you surrender? Never, but I may scream. He's like, yeah, I understand that. I tend to have that effect on people. So they share a kiss, a nice little passionate moment. And then he hears everybody else coming to find him. And he goes to run. She's smiling. And then he's like, excuse me, grabs a hat and beats it. So she then covers up. And Montero's like, what are you doing here? What happened? Zorro, I fought him and he left. Did you recognize him? No, but he was young and vigorous. And she's kind of swooning in this moment. And then she realizes who she's talking to. He was very vigorous, father. Vigorous. And he's like, vigorous. Yes. So, yeah, they get ready to, or then it's back with Zorro again. They're getting ready to lay siege of the mind. Yeah, yeah, dude. That was actually one of the better scenes in the movie, the fight between Zorro and Elena. It was one of the better sword fighting scenes. I mean, don't get me wrong, the sword fighting scenes throughout the movie are all great, but that one really shows how well those two's chemistry work together. How you doing, Origins? It's good to see you. We're just doing a review for two movies, Mask of Zorro and Legend of Zorro. Now, at this point, because of all the panic, well, Anthony Hopkins tells Alejandro, I'm not going with you to the mine. This is something you have to handle. He's like, well, what about the people? I gave my life to them. And he's like, so you're just going to do nothing? No, I'm going to take back my daughter. And don't pretend that she means nothing to you. Oh, but she does. But Zorro is needed. And he's like, yes, Zorro is needed. You are Zorro, basically. It's not exactly what they say, but he's letting him know that he was, or he then lets him know the secret of who Elena really is. And Elena was told while she was out getting, or just out amongst the shops and whatnot, a woman who was actually her nanny from when she was a baby recognizes her and tells her about her parentage and whatnot. And that is when suspicion is cast, but it's put aside for later on in the film. So that is a little bit of a movie mistake, because anybody who just found out conflicting information about their parentage, especially from a perfect stranger, would have that, or would show or display that kind of, or would display further on a sense of confusion. She doesn't have that confusion until later on. And she also talked with Anthony Hopkins. They had a scene together where he's talking to her, and he accidentally lets it slip, you look so much like your mother. And she's like, how would you know? well, I don't see that much of Raphael in you. And he hears about what Raphael told her about his mother, or about her mother, and whatnot. And it's like, weird. So she actually asks a little later, I need to ask you, it's strange, your voice is so familiar to me somehow. And he lies to her, basically to protect her at this point. Now, Anthony Hopkins finds his way into the hacienda of Montero. And he's like, we need to find Zorro. And then he puts a sword right to Montero's neck. And just as Love is about to draw his pistol, he's like, go on, reach for it. And so he comes in. It's a very direct vengeance. I mean, not something that you can expect to go right. I mean, but at this point, you get the sense that Anthony Hopkins is very desperate to have his daughter back. And so he told him, he's like, I told you long ago, Raphael, that you would never be rid of me. And they have banter. Elena is called, and he's like, tell her, Raphael. Tell her what? Tell her who her real father is. And so she's a little bit of, this is where what she learned from that stranger in the market, her nanny at the time. This is what she learns from her, or this is where that comes into play, because her nanny also told her that they hung fresh flowers by her crib. And Raphael tries lying to her. He's like, this man lost a daughter once and it's driven him mad, so he comes to claim me for his own. And he's like, tell her how her mother died. And he's like, your daughter's gone, De La Vega. You cannot have mine. So she knows the name De La Vega because the nanny also said that name. And she's like, a woman in town, she told me, Diego De La Vega. And Montero's like, his name's a little consequence. So this is where Catherine Zeta-Jones's character, Elena, decides to confirm it for herself. I was told that my nanny, or niñeta, used to hang something in my crib. And he's like, yes, she hung fresh flowers. And that's when everything goes to shit, because the captain draws his pistol about to shoot. And Raphael stops him because he realizes this mistake was made before. So he goes to stop the person with the gun, not the sword. So this shows you that he learned from his previous mistakes. And this is when other guards show up. And, well, yeah. Drop the sword or I'll have no choice but to order you shot, even in the presence of my daughter. Montero's still maintaining the lie, even though the evidence has already been very confirmed and displayed to her. She knows the truth, but, well, Anthony Hopkins' character, in true fashion, gives up the sword and is taken away. So now it's a race to the mine, and Zorro is already there, showing up, and he's getting ready. Now, as this is happening, Elena frees her father, accepting that it's exactly who she is, or accepting that he is who he says he is. And all of the explosives are then at the mine. Zorro is discovered. People are starting to shoot. And Montero's about to shoot Zorro in the back. Well, then that's when the hero moment shows up, where Anthony Hopkins shows up. And he realizes that his daughter had betrayed him. Well, his perceived daughter. Now, the choreography of this fight was also well done, because it has marks of the last fight. Because the fight between Montero and De La Vega, how you doing, Riot Kitty? Good to see you. This is a 20-year grudge, basically. And in the first fight, De La Vega scores a stabbing move, right, or a stabbing thrust right into the shoulder of left shoulder, not right shoulder, but left shoulder of De La Vega. Now, in this scene, the people are getting chained up and left in the mine at this point. So he hits the same spot that he hit 20 years ago to get De La Vega to back off. And then he tells Elena to get the people out because they were locked in cages getting ready to be buried under the mine. So Zorro, Antonio Banderas' Zorro, is fighting Captain Love. Did you say? Yes, I said thrust. You know, thrust it. But anyway, that's a sword turn move, dude. But yeah, very funny. Now, it's a great movie. Basically, Anthony Hopkins has Montero cornered, and he's like, so now I am free to finally kill you. Where then Elena shows up after she has freed everyone, and she also meets up with Zorro, who is unmasked at the point. And you see, or during the fight, it goes back between the fights, which is good cutting because it's a good passage of time to let you know that two people are fighting a battle, or two battles of vengeance, so to speak. And Captain Love gets stabbed. He's finally defeated. And then Montero is cornered. Spoilers. I hate them. Or I hate discussing spoilers. But because these movies are older, I'm pretty much figured many people have saw them. And this is where it's already very clear that Montero always or will never drop the delusion that Elena is his daughter. So even though the facts have already come out, but also Elena stops her actual father from killing the man who basically kidnapped her, because there is a little bit of love still there for her perceived father. Now, this causes Anthony Hopkins to drop his guard a little bit, which causes Montero to pull a gun on her, saying, drop the gun, or drop the sword immediately. So he drops it. He's like, you really think I would have killed my own child? He still has that delusion. He still maintains that delusion. So he then tries to kill De La Vega, hits him in the chest, and it is a fatal shot and whatnot. But they get back into fighting, and well, then Montero has him cornered, but De La Vega notices his legs, or his hand, or feet. Sorry, folks. My focus is just a little bit off this morning. His feet are tangled in some rope a little bit, where a carriage has a bunch of gold on it, ready for moving. So Anthony Hopkins pushes up the lever to release the carriage, and the rope catches his leg and drags him over the edge. And Captain Love just happens to be right below him just as he's about to die. And so Montero and Love are dead, and the people have been rescued. You know, cliche stuff. But it's the ending. The line at the ending where De La Vega dies, it's always brilliantly done by Anthony Hopkins. Yes, I'm an Anthony Hopkins shell, man. He's like, to found you at last, only to lose you again. And he then basically gives his blessing to both Elena and to Alejandro to marry each other. So 50 minutes to do that one. Damn. Now, they then have, like a year later, Elena and them have a kid, which is the ending of this movie, where he's telling the story of Zorro to his baby, or to his infant son, Joaquin, that he named after his brother. Now, this movie ends at that point, and It was a very successful movie. Now we're going to get into Legend of Zorro. This movie didn't need to be made. However, it was because of the success of the first one, had a bigger budget, but sadly, it's not as good as this one. It's only been out for nearly 22 years. Yeah, good point, Lyndon. Now, Legend of Zorro, objectively speaking, I would put at a 3 out of 5, just below a fail. The acting is good. It has all the funny moments that the original had and whatnot, but it's the special effects that they used. Plus, the writing was a bit campy, not to mention that there is a character in the first movie who was a Don from the Mexican Dons. And there's I don't know, I can't remember if he plays the same character, but I don't think he does, because all the Dons who were part of Rafael Montero's associates were all either fled back to Spain or killed. Now, this same person who plays the character, you know what? Hold on, I'm actually going to see if it is the same character, because if not, it's a casting error. And I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to do this basically by looking up cast of both. Oh. Legend of Zorro cast. There we go. And we'll find it in a second. Yeah, Michael Emerson. I know the character. There we go. Tony Amendola. Now, yes, Tony Amendola played in both movies. Now, Mask of Zorro cast. Let's see here. Who did he play in the first one? Don Luis. Yeah, he played Don Luis in the first movie, and then he plays a different character in the second movie. What's the character that they have him as? Father Thingamajive. Yeah, it's a different character he played in. And that is actually considered a casting error, in my opinion, because if he's not, or it's just too close. Tony Amendola is a very well-known actor, and to have him play two separate characters in a span of 10 years, it's bad casting. Don't get me wrong, great actor, just bad casting choice for the second movie. Now, objectively, like I said, it's just below a pass because they had to rely on digital effects and heavy blue screen, which really hurt the film, because the first film, they didn't use blue screen, I don't think. They were on sets and whatnot. And the second one, there was just so many mistakes. Now, the story is good, and some of the cast is good. I mean, you got Nick Shinland as one of the baddies in the movie, which is very good, but this movie is not as good as the first. Now, the story is basically he was supposed to give up, or he was supposed to basically give up the cowl and the sword and the mask. But he didn't, and his son is growing up not knowing his father. It's a family story. And while Zorro was, at this point, 10 years after California had become independent, now California wants to join the Union. And this is the time of the Civil War. So I love how they interwoven the history into this movie. So this is a time where the people of California were trying to, or were voting whether or not to be part of the Union. And Zorro's all for becoming a part of the United States, the unions. So they'll be known as Americans, not Mexicans anymore. So this movie takes place 10 years after the first. Little Joaquin is 10 years old. They have him doing, or he's a lot like his father was as a kid. He's always getting into trouble. He's always doing all sorts of misbehaviors at school, shooting slingshots at the teachers and other people. It's a great movie. Now, I'm not going to get too much into spoilers in this one. Basically, the Pinkertons, which worked for the U.S. government, were, or intercepted telegrams to the villain of the movie about a potential coup, or rather extermination of the U.S., of the United States. And the main character, let me pull up his name, or the actor who played him, Rufus Sewell, who played Armand. He's basically part of a one world order, Orbis Unum, and at this point he creates glycerin, or nitroglycerin, and he was going to give it to the Confederates. Well, yeah, it's up the base. Or now, Nick Shinlin's character played, or is basically a lackey who's also a religious zealot to Armand, and he's been trying to take land from other people, and he kills one person. And at this movie also has Zorro at a conflict, because the Pinkertons find out who Zorro is, and they blackmail his wife into divorcing him so that she can go undercover to infiltrate Armand and learn what's going on and what he has planned. And it drives a huge wedge between Elena. You see Alejandro de la Vega basically at the end of his rope. He's getting drunk. He's getting irritable and such, but he still is Zorro. Now, his father, or his son, is also kind of estranged because Elena has custody of him, so to speak. And his son, who played his son? I mean, back then he was a 10-year-old kid, but let's see here. Adrian Alonso played Little Joaquin, and I gotta say, either through very clever stunt double of a small person, or it could even be a carnival person who did the stunt work for Little Joaquin. It was very well done, and I honestly think it could have been the kid who was actually doing some of the stunts, because it was so tightly shown, and plus they couldn't do really good facial replacement back then. But this movie does have a lot more mistakes in it than the original, and honestly, it's a movie that really didn't need to be made. So it's basically kind of it's not a revenge story. It's a different aspect where the son doesn't even know who his father is, and it's only until he's brought low that he finally finds out, because Zorro was about to blow up a train full of nitroglycerin that was going to the Confederates. But because his son and wife were taken hostage by Armand, he actually has to stop the train from getting blown up, and he gets himself caught because of it. and then he's unmasked and whatnot. So he fights his way free after getting caught and goes to rescue his kid and his wife, or ex-wife at this point. Now, this is where a lot of mistakes were made with special effects and really bad blue screen, because Zorro and his horse get onto the train, and the train's about to go into a tunnel. So you see the bad lighting and all, and it's just god-awful. Now, don't get me wrong. Subjectively, I like this movie. Subjectively, I would give it a 4 out of 5. I mean, it's not perfect, to say the least, but the movie is still entertaining to watch. And there's also a little bit too much campiness in it for my taste, especially when it comes to serious matters like a Zorro movie should have. I mean, yes, there are the funny moments, but you should also have a higher level of seriousness in this case. I mean, it's just a little bit too much. Not way too much, but a little bit too much campiness. But overall, subjectively, it's about 4 out of 5. Now, moviegoer, which I'm not breaking down the movie, I would say it's about a 5 out of 5. It's enjoyable. You get a lot of laughs and such. But but when it comes to a review, this movie does not get a pass, even though I like it subjectively. I can admit when this movie is flawed. And before I watched it today, I had only seen it like once or twice. So watching it again, seeing the flaws, it's like, gosh, back then I couldn't even realize how flawed this movie was. But now that I have a more experienced eye, I can see it. So, as a whole, both movies together, objectively, I'll give it a 4 out of 5, because the movie, or the story as a whole, it's a pretty well done story. Now, subjectively, 5 out of 5. I do like Zorro, like I said. And moviegoers, I would say it's a 5 out of 5 for both movies. But so with that, folks, I am going to start wrapping it up, because I am getting close to 11:30 where I have to get some stuff going. And I also need to do a couple of stuff, so it's going to take me a bit. So I am going to start wrapping it up here. I am going to check the poll on Twitter first to see what movie is making second place in that poll. So let me just check that really quick. Get to my profile. Let's see here. Battle Los Angeles will be my next review, and that won't be a live review. That will be a video review, because Clash and Wrath of the Titans and Pacific Rim 1 and 2 will be a live reviews, because I'm reviewing more than one movie. But Battle Los Angeles is basically taking second place. So I will do that as a video, and that will be out tomorrow. So stay tuned for that one. Anyway, folks, I am going to start wrapping it up. For anybody catching it on the replay, y'all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts of these movies. Did you like them? Did you not like them? I highly recommend the movies. But yes, Battle Los Angeles is going to be the next one, AFK. And that is actually one of my favorite military movies, even though it also has aliens in it. But as a military movie, I like it too. Now, anyway, folks, stay tuned for next Friday's Versus stream, where we're going to have Rey Palpatine, the daughter of Emperor Palpatine, versus Valen, the daughter of Vitiate. And we're going to have possibly Ryan Kennel and Mara Jade. We're definitely going to have Ambassador back for that one. Alien Starship Troopers. I might do a thing for Starship Troopers. I haven't seen Ender's Game. I'm gonna look for that to see if I can get it on my Movies Anywhere app. Independence Day is a good movie. Independence Day Resurgence, not as good, but still good. But anyway, I am going to wrap it up here, folks. Stay tuned for that Versus stream. It's going to be next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 6 p.m. for the Californian friends, Eastern or Pacific Standard. Anyway, folks, this has been Orange Hat Reviews. And my before I do go, I want to thank AFK, Bard, Riot Kitty, Lyndon, Mirisphere Origins for coming to watch this live stream. And thank you, AFK. And for those catching it on the replay, sorry you missed it, but I had to get this done before I get going to do some work today. But anyway, folks, this has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.